In this lesson, we're going to talk about auditing IT governance structure and its implementation. Now, as an auditor, there are going to be many conditions that you should be concerned about, but some of them are, of course, more significant indicators of potential problems than others, and some of those might be, things like unfavorable end-user attitudes. Find out why they're not happy. What's going on? What are the improvements that we should be looking at? Excessive costs or cost overruns, projects that are late, a high staff turnover. Some industries like sales, that's a little bit normal, but in IT, that's an indication of a problem. Frequent hardware or software errors, an extensive number of exception reports. That might be indications there, of procedures that need to be reviewed and changed, or policies, or an issue of training with the people that are working. Poor motivation, or maybe you just don't have enough key personnel. So all of these are, things that we want to look at because they can damage the potential of how efficient and effective your IT can be to supporting your business objectives. One of the things you should do when you're looking at the IT governance is to review the documentation, and some of the documents that you really want to make sure you get and take a look at are things like the IT strategies, the plans, and their budgets. And you want to be able to show evidence of planning and management control. You want to take a look at the security policy documentations so you can provide yourself a standard that you can judge compliance on. Take a look at the organizational or functional charts. We use this as an auditor to be able to understand the reporting line within a department. The job descriptions that are in place. We want to know what are the definitions of the various functions and the responsibilities of people throughout the organization. You want to look at any documentations from a steering committee, looking at their reports that were designed to provide documented information about new system projects. You also want to take a look at things like your system development and program change procedures so that you can have a framework of what it takes to actually have change, to understand change control. You want to look at the operations procedures that are there to describe the responsibilities of the operations staff. You want to look at the HR manuals so that you understand what the rules are and the regulations for employee conduct, and the quality assurance procedures that are used and the framework that they're using of standards, and know if they're being followed by the IS department. So as you can tell, what I'm talking about at this point is gathering the information that gives you an understanding of this, of the IT itself, of this organization, so that you can understand when you're auditing, number one, if they are up to date and if they seem to be current with their documentation, and then number two, how well they're meeting those policies and those regulations, those procedures that you've outlined. We also want to look at your contractual commitments. Now, this could include your contractual commitments for hardware, software, IS service contracts. Things like your SLAs. So, service level agreements, if you buy hardware, if I buy a new server from a vendor and the server dies, it has a hardware failure 2 months into its lifespan, certainly probably not going to be in the line of what we expected with the mean time to repair and the mean time to be between failures. And so you're going to look at the agreement and say, well, what does it say about this? Do they have anything contractually that they're going to do, like replace the server? If they are, do I have to wait for it to be shipped? Do they have one that's near here that they can bring on site? One of the things that Cisco was working with on one of their service level agreements was to replace any of the equipment that you have purchased within 4 hours of the failure. And I was really kind of impressed because I was in this very remote area of Alaska, and there was a facility, and it was in what they called the bush country. Interestingly enough, that is a way of saying there's no road there. You fly in or you boat in, and that's it, right? And I'm thinking to myself, okay, so here's this major facility out here in the middle of this bush country. And I just asked, I said, okay, look, you said that you've got this SLA with Cisco. They're going to replace equipment in 4 hours. And I'm thinking, when I'm flying out here and they're telling me that I'm going to have to leave early for the day because a storm's coming in, and if I don't leave early, I may be there for 2 weeks until that storm passes over. And I'm thinking, okay, I'll go ahead and leave. I'll get out of there. But I stopped and I thought, okay, so that storm hits and equipment fails. How does Cisco meet their contract? And it was my understanding. I didn't see this personally. It was my understanding what they said is that most of those key components that they need, the replacements, are there on site. They're just locked up and stored because they can't legally put them in and use both pieces of equipment because they didn't buy two, they bought one and have a replacement. But it was already there ready to be replaced in case that happens. I thought, oh, well, I guess in a way they've satisfied that agreement. So we want to look at those. You want to look at your bidding and selection processes. You want to take a look at the contract acceptance, things of, about maintenance and compliance. So we want to look at all of those different types of contracts that you have. And that, by the way, if you notice, was more than just the service contracts. We're talking about the process we went through in purchasing that equipment from the vendor, and what made us choose that particular contract, and what we see for maintenance and compliance and the rest of it. The review of the contracts by the auditor should be there to evaluate some of the criteria of the contracts, like service levels, are third-party audits being done, software escrow, and if you're not familiar with that, that's so as an example, software escrow. I might be working on this large programming project, but I have to have some third parties, kind of help develop key pieces of the software that I'm going to integrate into my overall package. But for them to be able to work on this, they have to have my work, so they can do their work and make sure that it's interacting. And if, let's say I was Microsoft and I said, I don't want anybody with my Windows source code, but I'm contracting this little company to write a piece of what Windows is going to do. Well, they're going to have that source code so they can make it work with Windows. So in a way, they've got that software in escrow, kind of that idea. So we'll take a look at those conditions. What are the penalties in the contracts for noncompliance? Do you have anything in the contract that talks about changes to the contract? And of course, looking for the adherence to your security policies and procedures.